Hey, what's up, rock stars? It's Rox coming to you today with a review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, The Reunion, part 2. And maybe one of the strangest reunions that I have ever saw in the Real Housewives of Atlanta history. If this reunion didn't let you guys know that they didn't have that much to work with this season, because they barely had enough really to put in a second part. If they didn't have Drew and Ralph and their dramatics, what would we have done for like the last 25-30 minutes of the reunion, you know? So very odd. They really have a lot of work that they need to do at Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't know what the answer is. I still don't think that a complete revamp and taking everybody out and putting somebody in, I don't think that would work. But honestly, there's a lot of people on this show that I don't care to see anymore. So I don't really know what they're going to do. But anyway, you guys, no more further ado. Let's get this through this damn review, shall we? All right, you guys, so the show started where it ended, which was with Courtney and Drew going back and forth. You know, Courtney is so tiring because Courtney is convinced that she knows all the ins and outs of Ralph and Drew's relationship, regardless of whether or not Ralph has been coaching her, which is clear that he has. He's definitely been in her ear. She's been in his ear. She really been in his ear, but we'll talk about that in a second. But, you know, it's just for somebody to come from outside that's only known him for about 6 months, I don't give a fuck if she is the real cousin or not, you know. You haven't been around long enough to know anything. So the fact that she single-handedly ruined her marriage, I don't even know how that girl could sit there and say that without like kind of busting out laughing like I got my damn nerves. Like, really, Courtney? So yeah, Courtney was really, what I will say about Courtney though is Courtney is not afraid to poke the bear. Courtney is not afraid to be the villain. Courtney is not afraid to say what she want to say. Courtney is not afraid to go along with the unpopular opinion. It's like, I mean, really, in Real Housewives, like when we talk about the makeup of the Real Housewife, I guess Courtney would actually fit in just fine. But do you guys like Courtney? Like, do you guys want Courtney on? I mean, I think that Courtney is awful. I think that she is horrible. But it's clear, like I said, that Ralph has been telling Courtney stuff, so that's why she sits so confidently on that stage. And it's too bad. Makes Drew look really stupid. Makes Drew look really bad. Just like Drew said, like her husband just is committed to embarrassing her. And now he don't even have to be on the show to do it. Now he has Courtney, you know, his puppet. Drew, did you go see Ty in Texas? And Drew said, yes. Like, what? Like, that's her friend. Of course she can go see Ty play basketball. She was just like, I don't know what Ralph does. Ralph has a life and he does things and she doesn't always know. And she doesn't understand what the big deal is. Well, the big deal is, I'm not even mad at Drew for if she did go and have an affair with Ty, because I know that Ralph has been a horrible husband. I mean, what we've seen in these last 3 years, I think that Ralph has been horrible to Drew. So a bitch can only take so much. And eventually you get to that point where you just like, okay, nigga, you out there doing what the hell you want to do. If you're not in a position to say I'm leaving right now, then what's your next course of action? A lot of people is just like, I'm gonna get my get back. Okay, nigga, I'm getting my lick back. So if she went out there and fooled around with Ty and all of that, I mean, you know, shit is not ideal in a marriage, but I mean, do we really feel mad at Drew for what she might have done at this point? After we know what Ralph, I mean, they came in on the show with the fool of fucking niggatry. So anyway, you know, even though Drew is trying to explain that Ralph does whatever he wants to do, you know, Courtney is over there, I mean, fully defending him. That's not true. That's not true. Courtney, do you believe that Ralph has lied to you? No, she does not. But Ralph knew about the affair and he did tell Courtney about the affair. Okay, so this whole Ty situation. What was interesting to me was the fact that I thought that Drew met Ty on the set, as if Ty was already on the set, and then she happened to see Drew and Drew happened to see her and they kind of struck up a friendship. But no, that's not what the case is. You know, remember she had told Manetta that if her and Ralph don't work out, that she's gonna go get her crush. And Manetta said, "Who's your crush?" And she said, "Ty." Okay, you would have thought that Ty would have been on. No, Ty wasn't on no damn set. Apparently, when Drew said that, somebody overheard her. I'm not sure if it was Manetta, because we ain't never get clarification of how Ty just showed up on the set the next day. But sure enough, Ty shows up on the set, and then her and Drew are introduced into each other. So I'm just like, did you actually tell somebody to tell Ty to come to the set? Because why? It ain't like we can just go to sets, you know? So that was interesting. When Candy said that, you know, she met her on the set the next day, I was like, okay. But that's weird. So Ty was summoned to the set. Sheree, Marlo, Andy says, what do you guys know about any of this? You know, they're like, oh God, you know, kind of got that look like, heard a lot of shit, not really trying to say nothing. I mean, but if you press hard enough, then we will say something. Sheree really did want to say something. She just had to act like she didn't want to say anything. Okay. Because apparently Sheree says that somebody came by her home and dropped off some things. And they were like, who dropped it off? You know, she's not going to say who dropped it off. Drew is like, it's obvious it's Ralph. Okay, Courtney, did you do it? Nope. Courtney says, I can promise you that I did not give her this information. And Drew was like, no, it's Ralph. It's Ralph. Okay, because not that many people are going to have access to your text messages. I would assume that Ralph is the easiest, I mean, the closest to getting her text messages, considering they're in the same house. You know, he can get into her phone if he figures it out or whatever. Maybe they might have an account together. You know, you just don't never know. So these text messages, now I was waiting for somebody to read them out loud, because I was just like, some people say they were damaging, some people said that they weren't. Oh, this is not a big deal. Oh, look at this, what does this say? You know, they were printed out on some paper. Sheree ended up giving them to Andy. Andy read some. Kenya was like, pass them around, like, we want to read, you know. So everybody's kind of reading it and making their own judgment whether or not these were some incriminating or damaging type of text messages. And Drew is just sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, it's absolutely no way. This whole scene of them like really just kind of tearing apart or criticizing Drew's marriage, or, you know, what they've been doing and everything, it's absolutely no way that I would have agreed to sit there with that, you know? I mean, I guess Drew didn't have a choice. The production is going to do what they want to do, but it was just, and so I can't tell you for a fact whether or not those text messages really meant anything. Andy said that they did look pretty damaging, but like I said, I needed some verbatim. So nothing really comes of that, other than everybody is all in Drew and Ty's friendship now, you know? And that's not none of their business either. So that's why the whole time I was watching that, I was just like, and Drew was just sitting there looking bewildered. I was just like, this is crazy. But, okay, so they got enough out of Courtney and Manetta. And really, Courtney was the one that, you know, made her presence known during that time. So they get a break, but before the break, you know, Andy tells Manetta that he thinks it's cool that she has a school in South Africa. And she says, yeah, she's had it for 11 years. So that's good. So they take a break, and, you know, everybody goes back to, like, I guess their dressing rooms, and we see everybody kind of just talking about what they all was just doing just now. So we see Sheree and Marlo, you know, they sniggling and giggling. Marlo got a kick out of news. And Sheree was just like, you know, I just had to do it, Marlo, because, you know, she's always talking about me. And I was just like, you know what, Sheree? You already still got a bad taste in my mouth from what that damn Born Billionaire said about you and how you scammed him on them street by Sheree fashion. So I don't want to see nothing that Sheree, I don't know what was going on with Sheree this whole reunion. I think the fact that she was sitting right next to Andy had her in, I think that gave her like this confidence and this arrogance of like, yes, I was the main housewife this season, because she was on one. I mean, she actually was acting like she had been partook in some stuff Okay? I don't think that's what she did, but she was riled up. The fact that she keep on saying Candy talks about her, Candy, I was just like, oh my gosh, Sheree, I don't know how you could be so, what is, Sheree is, I'm still disgusted with her. And then we see Courtney and Ralph. Courtney goes in there to see Ralph because apparently the men are about to, well, Ralph is about to come out. We didn't even get the men because the men didn't really do much. I guess they could have talked to Todd about the movie and all, but they decided not to do any of that. They only brought Ralph. So Ralph is in his dressing room getting himself together, and Courtney goes in there. Courtney gives him this very borderline intimate hug. It was just sort of like, she goes in there, she hugs him, she asks him how he's doing. And, you know, he says that he's good. And then she was just like, are you ready to go out there? And he's like, yeah. And then right when they get to talking, Allison is walking by outside. So she must have seen Allison out the corner of her eye. So she turns to go and close the door. And Allison was like, don't you close this door in my face. You saw me standing here. Courtney was just like, yeah, can somebody get this bitch? And then Allison came back and she said, did you just call me a bitch? And she said, I did. I did. That's the one thing about Courtney. I'm telling you, that girl is not afraid. Okay, she was all up on, she was walking up on Allison like, yes, I did call you a bitch. And Allison was, oh, but you don't use that word, do you? And she says, I do now, you know. But somebody had stepped in between the two of them and they did close the door. But I was just like, that Allison, she needed about 2-3 more minutes and she was fixing to whoop Courtney's ass. And I tell you, I would have been able to see it. Although I'm not sure if she would have been able to just flat out whoop her ass, because Courtney, she's so unafraid of these bitches that I'm just like, well, maybe this heifer can fight, because she ain't showed no fear of nobody. Okay, so I'm curious, you know, that would have been a fight that I would have been front and center, even though it's terrible to see grown ass women fight, you know. But when Courtney gets rid of Allison and she comes back and she was just like, you know, I know that that's your wife, you love her, I get it, right? But you can't allow people to disrespect you. And I was just like, it's such a bad look for, how do I put this? So like, you know, you have your very close friends, right? My very close friends can speak on my marriage, okay? Because my very close friends have known me for over 20 years and they know me, they know my husband, and you know, and they can speak on the marriage to an extent, right? If I'm having problems or whatever and I speak to them, I know that I can trust that they're going to give me some good information, you know, good advice, or, you know, but it's only a couple of people that I do that kind of talk with. Ain't nobody that's known me for 6 months can say shit about my marriage. Okay? Nobody. You have absolutely no clue what has gone on. I don't give a fuck even if Mr. sat down and told you everything. You still could not sit there and tell me about my fucking marriage. All right? And people that has only known you for 6 months need to know their place. So Courtney doesn't understand that, bitch, you done came out of nowhere and you raising all this ruckus and doing all of this, and what do you don't even know what the fuck you talking about. You just going on one side of the story. And we all know it's at least 2 more sides to that story, you know? So it's just like, but the way Ralph was looking at at Courtney and vice versa, I know that they're saying that they're cousins and everything, but it feels a little bit closer. And the fact that she is so adamant on speaking on their relationship makes me feel like, yeah, there may be something going on there. She's feeling protective over this man that she has feelings for, you know? I mean, that's at least what it feels like. I'm not sure that's what it is, but it's something. It's something. So yeah, enough about Courtney. She came. Courtney was definitely successful, and the reason why they brought on to the show, she definitely has, Courtney made her mark, whether it's negative or positive. Definitely we know who Courtney is. Now, when they come back from their break, first we're talking to Sonya. Sonya had had a miscarriage. Even though Sonya is pregnant now, she got pregnant a month after she had had her miscarriage. And, you know, she was talking about it and how traumatizing it was. She knew that she was going to get like the doctor had already told her, Dr. Jackie had already told her that the baby wasn't going to survive. And so she was going to get the DNC, which is when they go in and they clean everything out, make sure that everything is out of the womb and their uterus and all of that. She had planned on getting that done. However, she had a business trip in New York that she needed to go to. So while she was in New York, she ended up having a miscarriage. And she said it was so much blood and it was awful. She had to go to the hospital. She had to get a transfusion, you know, and it was just terrible. But like I said, through the grace of God, you know, she got pregnant a month afterwards. She said that time she kept everything under wraps, didn't tell anybody until after, you know, she got past that first trimester. I think as of the reunion, when they recorded it, she was 4 months and something, she said, and she's due actually on Christmas Day. So anyway, she said that all the ladies were very, you know, everybody did reach out and speak to her and give her well wishes. The only person that she hadn't heard from was Kenya, and she was actually hurt by that. And Kenya said, okay, no, that's not true. I did call you. And Sonya was just like, okay, well, I didn't get the call. And she said, I actually called twice. She said, and I understand why you feel the way that you feel because we didn't speak. However, I did reach out to you. You know, we were already talking about doing our pregnancy together. We were going to be pregnancy twins, and, you know, we were support for each other. And, you know, that still meant something to Kenya. So she, you know, even though Sonya didn't speak to her, that she definitely did reach out and she was in her prayers and everything. So, you know, she apologized for that and making Sonya feel that way. But I actually loved the fact that Kenya didn't try to turn any of that around. She just said it just, you know, it was a misunderstanding. I definitely did reach out to you. So that was actually nice. We got that resolved right away. When Andy takes a question from one of the viewers, they say that Sonya treats her family bad. Why does she do that? She said she doesn't really feel that she treated them bad. You know, they were just a family. That was the way their dynamic worked. Well, is the family still there? Nope, everybody is gone. Okay, even though Marlo said they just moved 5 minutes away, you know, and she's always with them over at their house. So even though everybody got their own space, you know, the family is still together, just in separate places. As for Kenya, I know you said that you wanted to have another baby, you know, we thought about possibly using the embryos that you already have with Mark, you know, that were frozen, that she actually legally owns. You know, what are you going to do? Are you going to get pregnant? You know, surrogate? What's she going to do? And actually, Kenya said that she was going to adopt. And I was like, well, look at this. That is nice. You know, it's a special person it takes to adopt someone, you know. So she said, yeah, she is going to adopt. They were like around what age? And she said maybe about 2 or 3 years old. So not quite newborn, you know, trying to be up all night, but, you know, still in that age where you can mold them, and get them the way that you want them. So I think that is awesome too. And since we're talking to Kenya, we talk about this difficult friendship that Kenya and Sonya has. And I will agree that they definitely do have a very difficult friendship. I am not really sure why Sonya and Kenya can't seem to get it together. I actually like Sonya, and I know I am in the minority. I think that Sonya is actually a good housewife. She's married to a successful man, and they have successful businesses, and she's on her own is success in her own right. She looks good. She plays the part of the, you know, successful wife. She lives here in Atlanta. Like, I feel like she's a good place there. But as far as her and Kenya, they rub each other the wrong way. It's hard to really be Kenya's friend. I don't think any of these girls are friends, honestly. The only people that I could say probably would be really actually friends are Kenya and Candy. I don't think that anybody has a real authentic friendship with Sheree, even though Kenya would say that Sheree is her friend. Marlo, you know, Marlo and Sheree are probably friends like that, but I don't think that, I feel like these girls all work together, you know? that we have a job to do, to put on a, a entertaining reality show. But other than that, I really honestly don't think that any of them really like each other like that. Like in the beginning, when these shows first start out, you could tell that there actually was a close-knit group of girls. No matter how functional it was, or if they fell out, if they fought, but they still felt more like friends. Okay. And now it just really feels like a whole bunch of girls that get together that fight over really inconsequential and very small and minute and not important matters. Okay. And they do it for an hour and we watch it. That's kind of what it feels like these reality shows are now. Kenya feels that Sonya's two-faced. She says that she does things out the kindness of her heart. Like, for instance, when she did that fundraiser for Sonya and Sonya still is not appreciative. Like, she's done things for Sonya and Sonya hasn't liked it. And Sonya said, and I know that people are probably going to not like this, but I agreed with Sonya. Sonya was just like, I feel like you did that because you knew that it was going to be a good look for you and not necessarily helping me. Okay. So people can say, oh yeah, Kenya did go and help Sonya once again. Okay. And here goes Sonya not doing such and such for Kenya. Like, I feel like Kenya, when you've been on these shows for a long time, you got to think long term. So you got to figure out how you want things to happen and how you want to move. So in the long run, you end up looking better than the other person. So I feel like Kenya does things a lot of times so that nobody can say that she doesn't try to help. It might not be out of the kindness of her heart. That's more of a let me do this so a motherfucker can't say something, So I did agree with Sonya on that. I know people probably won't agree with me. Because it's clear that Kenya don't like Sonya. Kenya then talked about Ross, said that he was abusive and she was afraid of him and all of this. And if I felt, if I went along with what some of the people are saying, Kenya might have some deep-rooted envy issues with how successful Sonya and Ross's relationship is and just their whole family unit. That's something that Kenya wanted. Sonya has it, and even though I don't think that she sits around and be like, I want what that bitch has, sometimes deep down inside, when you see those kind of things, it just automatically comes out of you how you feel about it in different ways. And so I kind of feel like Kenya, she don't like Sonya. Even if I'm incorrect on her being envious of Sonya in her marriage, she don't like Sonya. She just don't like Sonya. So then we jump over to Kandi. Kandi, one of the viewers asked, why do you have a YouTube show? Just so that people can come on your show and be shady to your castmates? And Kandi was like, I'm just giving out what the people give to me. But this is the part that really, really made me just feel a certain way about Sheree. So Andy was like, we have a question from someone named Sheree, okay, from Sandy Springs, Georgia. And Sheree asked why Kandi is even on the show. You don't show up for the women on the show. You are so busy. You've got all these other things that you're doing. We barely saw you this season. Why don't you just step down and leave from the show? I was just like, you guys are actually allowing the cast members to actually sit up there and tell people that they need to leave the show? I would have been so offended. You could tell Kandi was so over that whole thing. And for Sheree to say all that and do all that as if she is just, I couldn't get all with this whole respect the OG that Sheree wants. I'm so tired of them yelling from the rafters whether or not they've been there since the first season. Nobody on the show has been there from the first season consistently for the whole 15 seasons. Kandi has been on the show since the second season on. Sheree has been on and off the show a few times, okay? So nobody can really sit there and say that they are really the OG. That's not true. Kandi and Sheree both can say that they are the OGs of this show, okay? Because Kandi is the longest running one. Kandi's never been put off. Even though Sheree said they've asked her numerous times to come back, I don't care. It doesn't matter, okay? Sheree really feels like she's like the head housewife, you know, and I just crazy. Anyway, they talk about her EGOT. You know, Andy says that, and side note, if you guys didn't notice, that Andy was quite perturbed with these girls and some of the answers that they gave too. He was running out of patience. And you guys, we hadn't even been, this is only the part 2. Remember, we used to get 4 parts. Remember, we had 4 parts when Nicki Minaj was there that time? Girl, 4 parts, not for Real Housewives of Atlanta. That was for Potomac. But what I'm saying is, they could barely put shit together for 2 parts. And that, you know, so anyway. We talk about her quest for the EGOT, how she's working on, she's the producer team, her and Todd are on the producer team for The Wiz, and that's coming out soon. Okay, so Kandi is still very busy. And then we talk about the shooting with Marlo and Marlo's nephew, and, you know, her being upset that Kandi didn't reach out to her about the nephew, but didn't like the fact that they didn't want to talk about the shooting on the show. Okay, and Marlo maintains that Kandi had the girls even afraid to bring it up, and Marlo didn't think that that was fair. All right, my whole thing with Marlo is Marlo can say what she wants. Exactly what Kandi said, Marlo switched it up, because first Marlo was just mad about Kandi not speaking about the shooting. Remember, she just felt like it was biased of Real Housewives of Atlanta, the production team, for them to not, you know, for them to all agree that they wouldn't say anything about it. But then it turned from that into Marlo being upset that Kandi didn't reach out to her and give her condolences and send flowers or send something to eat or even call the boy's mother. And Kandi was like, I don't even know them people. I don't know them like that, you know. And so for Marlo to keep going on and on about that, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Marlo is mad for no reason. Marlo is just mad because Kandi is a favorite. If Marlo was going to be mad, she needed to be mad right when it first happened. How you mad about it 2 years later? After you and Kandi have had plenty of other dialogue and other things that happened. There never came a moment where you mentioned your nephew or your cousin, whatever he was. No disrespect. But you ain't never mentioned it, and now 2 years later you so we not gonna give Marlo that. Okay, Marlo's tripping, but she has been for the last 2 seasons, so I'm tired of that too. Kandi finally comes right out and says, you are jealous of any success that I have. Okay, I know Kandi don't really like to say stuff like that, because that is not part of her. Like, Kandi is a humble person, but sometimes you got to say it. Shit, motherfucker, I'm tired of pussyfooting and dancing around the issue. Your ass is jealous of me, of what I've been able to achieve. Okay, because I have said a whole bunch of my bullshit. Kandi has told us all of her bad. It might just be that nothing bad is really happening to Kandi right now. Okay? But Kandi, child, we've been on there. We done had fights with the family, the mama, the mother-in-law, the getting married, the family. I mean, Kandi has shown so much bad, you know? And really, there might just not be nothing really negative for her to talk about right now, you know? So, I was just like, oh my God, they're just going to keep on going on and on about this. Kandi was so frustrated. You could tell her expressions on her face. But yet and still, Andy asked her, you know, are her and Marlo going to be able to be fine or what? You know, are you guys always going to be at each other's throats? And Kandi was just like, if I see her in public, I will be cordial. She was like, but if the bitch got some crazy energy, then she going to be met with the same energy. Now, they take another break. And when they come back, Ralph comes out. And this whole segment is the awkwardest. It is the most awkward, weird, strange, uncomfortable, tension-filled segment that I have ever sat through. I was so embarrassed, really for both of them, but mostly for Drew, because she looked like she was ambushed, like she didn't know that they was going to have Ralph just come out there and sit down and talk, you know. So she kind of was looking like she was mad and all. And then Ralph, you know, him trying to be like, of course I love my wife. Drew, did you want to say anything? You know, It was just sort of like, oh, so he's been an asshole for all the time, and now he comes on here and he's trying to act like he's just a good husband, and he, communicates to her and he allows her to speak. And I was just like, oh my God. But yeah, Drew was like, I don't even know why you're here. And Andy was like, well, because we invited him. Honey, she even had a peach for him since he's a housewife right now. So anyway, we start talking to Ralph. Drew was like, go on and talk. Since you want your moment, you go on and have your moment. So we talk about the adoption. Ralph says that Drew wanted him to adopt her oldest kid, but he never could do it because the oldest kid's father is in his life, and he was like, I'd never take that right away from another man. He wants to be this child's father, and he needs to be given that opportunity. I'm still gonna be around as a stepdad because we have a relationship, but other than that, like, no. And he didn't like the fact that Drew was asking him to do that. Bottom line, Ralph is there because he said that he needs to make sure that the proper representation of him as a father is shown on the show. Do the kids know about the divorce? And they said no. So Drew is talking about the fact that there's certain things in their marriage that she has always been quite protective of, and she doesn't feel like, she has never felt like it should be out there for just the general masses to know. She says she has always protected Ralph. She's protected her family. And I guess this was part of the reason why Drew has become such a liar, because Drew had to create scenarios and things when Ralph made her, when Ralph was out there doing whatever the hell Ralph was doing, and she knew it was gonna make her look crazy. She had to lie about a lot of stuff just to save her own reputation and face, But she was like, he's always put me in a place where I'm embarrassed, and he's, he doesn't look out for me. She doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel protected by her husband. And she's just like, just be honest. He didn't want to go to counseling because he doesn't want to be held accountable. And so he was just like, that's not true. She said this whole situation with Ty is really a non-issue. And he said, well, your assistant is the one who told me about Ty. And she was just like, no, he didn't. It's just like, how you just know that this boy didn't say that? And he was like, yes, he did. And so then that's when Andy was like trying to get it from the rest of the ladies. So have you guys heard that? And then Candy was just like, well, I mean, yeah, actually your assistant did say that. Your assistant told my makeup artist, and my makeup artist told this person, and then, yeah, so they were saying that you and Ty had something going on. And, Drew's face was just sort of like, oh, I was just like, Drew, girl, you ain't even got to lie at this point. I think maybe the only reason why Drew is not admitting to that situation with Ty is, one, because maybe her mother, the fact that she's a pastor and she, they're very religious and all of that, that might be part of it. But the other part might be, we going through a divorce. Judges don't really look all that favorably towards the spouse that has been cheating. So maybe she's looking at that also, why she can't come up off of this. But when enough people are talking about you hooking up with this girl, then I believe that there are some things there that we can believe. But we don't even care, girl. This man been doing whatever the fuck, been gaslighting you, making you look crazy, like you said, got women coming up to you, making you, sending you shit, calling you on the phone, embarrassing you and all that. Do you really think that we gonna be mad at you for doing anything with Ty or anybody else at this point? Girl, go get your fucking do what you want to do. Okay? Ralph doing what he want to do. And he got Courtney on here embarrassing you, and yeah, I would have just been like, so that's probably why she wasn't just like, yeah, I'm fucking Ty, because why not? She makes me feel good. Okay, and Ralph ain't made me feel good in a long time. That whole thing, once that conversation came out, instead of her saying like, okay, coming clean or whatever, she pulls out her phone and she shows Andy a picture of this woman. Apparently some woman sent a picture to Ralph. I'm assuming maybe she was naked, and Ralph, she showed that to Andy, and Andy was like, this is a woman with a big ass, and it says, when are you gonna bring me back that D? Okay, ICK. Everybody was just sort of like, oh. And Ralph was just like, that was a catfish. Okay. Now, this very well might have been a catfish, but like I said, Drew and Ralph has lied so much that it is so difficult to tell who is telling the truth. Okay, but Ralph says that somebody sent that to him on Christmas Eve. We saw this, I saw this on Instagram today. But Ralph said that on Twitter today. But he said that somebody sent him that picture on Christmas Eve. He never responded to it. And then a few minutes later, they sent that same text message and shit, screenshotted it, and sent it to Drew. So he was just like, so Drew actually knew about this and knew that it was a catfish, knew I didn't respond to it, and she's just showing Andy that picture. And I was like, okay, that may or may not be true. But if it is true, okay, why is people reaching out and trying to target you in the first place? You know, bitch, when the smoke is fire. That Ralph ain't slick. Then we have the conversation about the Chocolate City. The Chocolate City, the black version of Magic Mike out there in Vegas. Remember, he was gone. Drew said that the woman that was oiling him down for the video had told him that he should come and try out, so he went out there to try out. Ralph said he didn't go out there to try out. Ralph said he went out there, he was for a tech convention, he was doing business, and then he also met with the people, but it wasn't like he was going out there to try out. It's just like, what difference does it make? You was either there, you wasn't, you know? So did he audition or not? You know, well, Candy had apparently called and checked in. She had a friend or a friend of a friend who knew about what was going on. So she called them and they said, yes, Ralph did audition. So anyway, they're going back and forth. You know, Ralph said that he's getting blowjobs all around the world. And Drew, now you know I was just being silly. You can't just have a blowjob all around the world. Andy was just like, why not? Andy was just like, that shit sounds like that's a good time. You get a blowjob all around the world if you got the coin. Shout out to Nene. So anyway, after Drew gives this whole long impassioned speech about how Ralph has just always disappointed her and made her look bad out there in the Atlanta streets and the whole time that they've been married, and how much he's had to try to cover up and fix things and change it up, you know, for the sake of Ralph and her marriage, Ralph was just sort of like, Drew, you're acting right now. You know, why just be serious? Just be honest. Just be honest. And she was just like, fuck this. I'm not doing this. She jumps up. They're like, no, don't leave. And she was just like, I'm not doing this because why is he here in the first place? Like, I'm sitting here having to listen and talk to him and talk about my marriage. Like, I'm not doing this. The nigga's a liar. And she just over it. So she leaves out, right? And so she goes back to the dressing room. She's all crying. They're trying to get her to stop crying. Drew, you got to go back out there. We got to keep your makeup together. Like, don't fall apart, you know. And some of the other ladies got up and followed her out. So it was just Candy, Kenya, Andy, Ralph, and maybe Marlo, I think, that was still sitting there. I forgot to tell you guys that before she had stormed out, she was saying that Ralph has made the marriage so difficult, that Ralph has banned her family from their house, her mother, her father, her sister. See, this shit goes a whole lot deeper. And it's really bad when you have a spouse that bans your family. That is a big problem. Unless a family member is like harmful to you or your household, you know, I don't know how people can just say your family can't come over here, you know. And so the fact that Ralph seems like he's tried to alienate or keep Drew away, you guys know that's like classic abusive type of scenario. Not saying that Ralph is an abuser, not physically anyway, maybe emotionally abusive. But yeah, when you try to keep people from the other people that love them, and you know that might be telling them something other than what you would want for your spouse to be hearing, then there's something's wrong there. And the thing that Ralph is using to his advantage is the fact that we all know that Drew lies. We have said it's sort of like a situation where Drew has cried wolf so many times that now when there really is a wolf in the room, well, we don't know whether or not we're gonna believe her, because she's always historically lied, you know. And now I do understand that she's lied a lot because she's been trying to protect her marriage, but yet and still, you've lied so much and been caught in so many lies that now nobody knows what to believe. And Ralph is using that. He knows that. So that's why he's trying to come off as the sincere and the caring husband that's just wants to get to the bottom of it, you know. And I'm just like, tired. I'm tired. So anyway, while Drew had then went off and was crying in the dressing room and they was trying to get her back together, Kenya's sitting up there and she's telling Ralph, she was just like, Ralph, you know, you are sitting here saying that you love your wife. She was like, but you're siding with the enemy. When your wife comes up to you and says, you know, I don't like this person because that person called me a bitch, and then your answer is, well, everybody calls you a bitch, then that's not being supportive. Okay? You're siding with the person that called her a bitch. How does she feel supported and safe when you say stuff like that? You know, so Kenya's trying to talk sense into him, because Kenya was like, I have been in a relationship very similar to this. And the things that you say to Drew is a lot of the things that Mark used to say to her. And she was just like, and he was just like, well, you know, no disrespect, but how long were you guys married? And she was just like, a couple of years, but what difference does that make? And he says, but it does make a difference. The only difference that it would make is that you've been abusing Drew for even longer than Mark did to Kenya. But Kenya was just like, it doesn't matter. I know what I've been through, and I see a lot of similarities there, whether it's been 5 years or 50 years. So Ralph just kind of doesn't pay attention to what Kenya's trying to tell him. The rest of the girls is kind of sitting there watching. I saw some people saying that it was disgusting that nobody came to Drew's defense. And in defense of all of the ladies on that stage, that shit was so weird. I wouldn't have known what to say really either. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to get in the middle of that shit, you know, with them going back and forth. I mean, it was very nice that Kenya did say that, but all of that was weird. So everybody probably felt a little off balance and uncomfortable. But anyway, they finally get Drew to relax and they bring her back out. So she comes back out and sits down. She got this pissed off look on her face. They say that, you know, Drew has a song that she's written. It's called Throw Us Away, and that she is going to perform. And I was going to learn the song for you guys, but I didn't, you guys. I'm sorry. She sounds good. You know, Drew has a really nice voice. And so she sings it live, but it's weird because she's singing about her husband cheating or making her feel away, and he's sitting right next to her, so she's like motioning to him and singing to him, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so weird. I need to turn this channel. You guys know I get secondhand embarrassment very easily, so I was watching that and I was just like, this is way too much. Like, this is just way too much for me. After she finishes, you know, Ralph, what did you think about it? Well, you know, my wife is a tremendous talent. You know, she can sing and she can act, and, you know, I just want her to be happy. Oh, isn't that nice of you, Ralph? Okay, well, we get through that. They let Ralph go. Everybody else that's sitting up there was like, oh, that was about the strangest shit that we'd have never seen. So we come back from a break, and Andy tells Sheree, you know, that she can give the final word. You know, she's the resident peacemaker, and she says that okay, she loves these ladies and they do have a sisterhood, and she's still going to work hard to make sure that they bring everybody back together, and so that we can have like this friendship and all that. I was like, don't get your old stealing, scamming, lying ass off out this screen. Sheree, I am so still upset with Sheree. I don't want to say nothing from Sheree right now. So after she say or whatever her bullshit, you know, they toast to healing. And then it's over. But yeah, you guys. It was not a good reunion. It wasn't a good reunion, and now I see why everybody is kind of up in arms at Bravo and, you know, trying to figure out what they're going to do about Real Housewives of Atlanta, because it is definite work that needs to be done. Okay? Y'all welcome to put y'all feelings of what you think needs to happen there. But I'm over it, y'all. That's it. I'm going to get on off of here. Make sure that you thumbs up the video, comment, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm Roxanne. The channel is itsrox. Everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Till next time, rock stars. Bye.